I'm used to it being in Seattle. There's just traffic all the time. I'm glad that the workday is over.
For the sake of sharing with the people who watch slash listen, you're a musician. You have been at this for quite a while. I was listening to the song before you and I came together just now. They seem like they're very haunted and they have they buzz and hum with an energy. I think there's just so much behind that. And this is an opportunity for us to explore maybe your backstory, but also tie it in and share a little bit about your musical process toward the end so that, of course, people
Yeah.
can listen to your music as well. Get the joy of it.
Hey everyone, I'm M.L. Reynolds, and this is Examined, a space to weigh what we think, question what we know, and trace the threads that hold our understanding together. Each conversation is an invitation to dig into challenging ideas and explore new perspectives, and hopefully come away seeing things a little bit differently.
So let's start with this. You are a singer-songwriter in Seattle by way of Albuquerque. Do you want to talk a little bit about your early childhood and growing up in Albuquerque?
Yeah. I grew up on East Route 66. My address was 938 East Route 66. Yeah, it was kind of fun to just grow up truly in the Southwest and very proud of it. My parents they're both artists, and my dad was building an earth ship, and they owned a sign business together. There were 5 kids. We had like a bunch of chickens and a goat and homeschooled. So just a very free childhood, and I was the oldest girl, so a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. Especially as being homeschooled. But yeah, a really delightful childhood running around barefoot. And we didn't really have any instruments. We weren't very wealthy or anything. But my grandparents had a piano. And so I kind of took to playing that. When the kids were watching TV, I was always like drawn to the piano or playing music. I feel like it started with me at an early age.
Look at what the keys can do.
Yeah, I mean, enough so that my mom, she stole some money from the grocery budget to get me like a couple of piano lessons. And I remember it like so vividly. Just my teacher looked like Miss Frizzle, and she looked, just so free and so beautiful. And she had a grand piano in her house, and I had to take my shoes off walking in. My feet couldn't touch the ground. I was like really nervous, but she just looked down at me from her seat, and she said, "Hi, Allie, like welcome. How do you feel right now?" And I remember looking up and just saying like, "Happy?" And she was like, "Wonderful. Let's find one note on the piano that expresses that emotion. Like find one right now." So I found one. I remember it was B flat, and I was like, this one makes me feel happy." And she's like, "Wonderful. Now let's find another note and let's tell a story using this instrument as something to express how you're feeling. And music will always be there for you. Music is your friend." And anyway, that's a huge part of my childhood. I remember that forever. Thanks, Mom.
That's fantastic. When you told me that your parents homeschooled you and that your dad was building an earthship, I formulated a picture that I hope will actually shatter a little bit of a sort of very idealistic individuals, people who really were doing the best with what little they had and also wanted to create and live maybe in a better world, and maybe a little bit apart from the world, just because you went on to say that your dad became a pastor. Um, can you tell me a little bit more about what really mattered to your parents? Like what instigated them to your dad to build an earthship and your parents to choose to homeschool you?
I think my dad, he was drafted early on and it was always like during the war and stuff. And he hated war, he hated violence. And he went to Bible college in San Jose, California, like before he got married to my mom. And my mom was my dad's second wife. I don't know. I think my dad he grew up kind of a hippie and wanted world peace. And he inherited this land from my grandparents and just wanted to be creative. And he always had a bent towards community. There were a few houses on our property, and we always had like people living with us. I can't even remember a time where it was just our family. So we always had people living with us and eating with us. And my dad, he just always wanted people around. He wasn't a pastor at that point, but when I was 11, he had, one of those come to Jesus moments in the shower. He said he felt like God's presence came down and said, "You need to take this seriously, and
Mm,
move from your kind of beautiful safe oasis up in the mountains, and I want you to move to the ghetto. So yeah, at that point there were 5 kids, and my dad, he just literally the next day started looking for property down in the what they used to call the war zone, but it's actually the international district, but the most crime-ridden area of our city. So that's, I don't know if you want me to go into that yet, but that was from like I guess the second part of my childhood, and we moved there, and people were like saying my parents were child abusers for moving us to a neighborhood that was so dangerous. Yeah, gunshots every single night. And everyone, the type of neighborhood where there were just bars on every window. And I don't know, my parents weren't scared though. And they started building a community there. So community's always been a part of my childhood and just looked a little different at that point.
Yeah. So you went from sort of like being able to be the barefoot, have fun, be free. Although
Mhm.
I want to go back and explore a little bit of the responsibilities that came with being a homeschooled oldest daughter, and then kind of take it and fast forward it back to moving to Albuquerque.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, being the oldest girl that's an interesting question. Yeah. I mean, I think I still like struggle with thinking about that. Just my education suffered, like our homeschooling. It seems like at times, and I've talked to my mom about this, but just homeschooling us was a very convenient option because it just kept us near to my parents and what they were doing, their business, like their at first it was their sign business and then ministry, but just having us all close and even just extra hands, to help build or, tend to the garden or help my parents with whatever project they were doing. It seemed like at times I was maybe more of a babysitter than, kid. And I eventually just got my GED and moved the hell on.
Wow.
Yeah, my education, like not really any of us went to college, like just things like that. I think that it was a ripple effect of education not being, the most important part of our childhood, but just other things were more of the focus, which I mean, I am who I am because of that. I love community and I love, I feel like I have a lot of street smarts and I feel like I can get along with pretty much anyone just because I was surrounded with so many different types of people. So yeah.
That's awesome. And so how did your mom and how did the entire family respond to this? We're going to move from the country, from this oasis all the way into the city and then just jump into ministry.
Yeah, like how was the transition, you mean? Like from moving from the such an ideal child, yeah, in the mountains, very, very sheltered and fun and free. But then yeah, moving into town, it was only like, 20 minutes away, but just a completely different world. Like we went from, being each other's only friends, basically, like us kids, to being kind of thrust into a very like we were the minority in that neighborhood. We were the only ones that didn't speak Spanish. I mean, we had food on our table pretty much every night when most of our neighbors maybe didn't. And yeah, it was, I don't know. I think at the time, all of us kids were raised with such values that aligned with what my parents believed that it was no question. Like we all just immediately were like, this is our life. Like this is our mission. We love our neighborhood. We love our neighbors. Like we want to be a part of a positive change. I mean, at that point, I think there were like 20 or 30 people living with us. My parents just started buying more and more duplexes and kind of renovating them so that people that didn't have like a steady income could have somewhere to live, as long as they're sober and, contributing to the community in a positive way. But I mean, obviously, I saw people come in and not be able to uphold that and leave and sometimes die. And I mean, I think we were just used to people coming in and out of our lives like that and trying our best. It was always heartbreaking though to kind of have zero stability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of peels some layers off of your heart when you have all these people that you're letting in on a regular basis for good reason, right?
Mm.
And seeing what they go through, I think it creates a kind of empathy in people just to be aware of that. So, did your dad start the church and the community from scratch, or were there other supporters that said, "You'd be great for this, we'll back it," or how did that work?
Yeah, we were kind of going to a church when we were living in the mountains,
Mhm.
like we were attending. And then that church moved locations closer to that neighborhood, the international district neighborhood, but it was supposed to be like temporary.
Okay.
And I remember my dad being like, "Well, why are we moving here temporary? Like these are the people that really need help. Like these are
Yeah.
the people that need." a hope. And at that point, my dad was kind of the one that had the vision for that, whereas some of the other pastors were like, this isn't where we feel called to.
Mm.
And I think it was kind of a natural movement towards my dad taking up the mantle, what they called it. And um, yeah, he became the lead pastor. And there were a lot of people that stayed and some people that left at that time, naturally. But that neighborhood became my dad's life mission. And it worked. He was extremely charismatic. I don't know. I've never met anyone like my dad. He truly had a heart of he had like zero judgmentalism in him. Like he just was purely motivated by love. And he loved being a part of people's lives being transformed. Kind of was 100% in. He never did anything halfway. So he got the entire city involved. He was on the news all the time. He was, the type of man that would get like the entire city to donate turkeys to our neighborhood on Thanksgiving. And like a line out the door. He also, I remember him doing crazy things like walking down Route 66 with this gigantic cross that he made just to make a statement. He got for that, obviously. He always was on the news. Um, the crime rate went down. I don't remember exactly the number, but like over 50% over the years that he was living. And yeah, a lot of people got involved with our church, and it felt like one of the only churches that was doing that, but it wasn't. There's a lot of people in that city that love that city. And yeah, it was pretty cool to see the neighborhood change. Like some of our neighbors, the kids in the neighborhood, like they felt really safe in the streets for the first time. Like I remember when we first got there, like no kid could like walk alone. Like it was like scary, but by the time that, like a few years in, there were kids playing soccer in the streets. And I think a lot of that had to do with what my dad was building and our family, truly. My mom, she endured a lot. She was cooking, like spaghetti for strangers just constantly and, with like no money to buy food. I don't know, just incredible people.
There's this is idealism as it should be placed. It's transformative. It is built out of love. The reason I think I started asking that question about like, where did the church come out of? Because I've known people who had this inclination they were going to start their own church. That's the kind of community in which I was raised. Our pastor
Yeah.
just decided all these kids are, in the 70s are misled. I'm going to start this congregation and we're going to get their lives right. And he was such a loving and wonderful person. But in that process, he ended up being the person who established the theology of the church. And so whatever he was learning at that point in time became what we practiced. And I remember the grounds shifting a lot for different people inside of our community and inside of our congregation. For women, it was particularly difficult because the standards around what you were allowed to dress as, that changed. What was holy and, the language, even the use of certain words were he sort of set the standard, how we didn't call the Holy Spirit was the Holy Ghost, that sort of thing. I asked that because you mentioned that when you were 13, you had a purity prom. And I was kind of curious, like, was that something that kind of was born out of the entire community and just what was going on in sort of what's in the ether of Christianity at that point? Or was that something that your parents felt like was really important for everyone in the community to participate in and for you to experience?
I think that a lot of that had to do with what is that book? Like I Kissed Dating Goodbye or something. There are obviously those books like getting filtered throughout every church. And that one particularly, yeah, was an anchor for our like ministry.
Right.
My brother was the youth pastor, my older brother at the time. And my mom, I can't remember, there's all these books, but my mom, she had a very traumatic childhood. And I think like those books particularly gave her a lot of hope, thinking that she was going to give us girls, her, three daughters, a safer path toward love. So, yeah, my 13th birthday party was a purity ball. And I don't know why they didn't really like communicate with me beforehand what it was going to be, but it was like basically this huge party that everyone in our church came, everyone in our like outer community came, and I was able to pick like, I think 10 girls to join me.
Yeah.
at my birthday party, but I didn't know what it was going to be. My mom, she went to art school, but she decorated our entire church like this huge, I don't know, there was a maypole, there were chickens, live chickens running around everywhere. And like some people were dressed as like, I hate like peasants, and some people were, I mean, I hate these words now, but like a gypsy, like just things that I would, at the time
Mhm.
off. But, and then there were these 10 chosen princess girls that were me and all my friends. So I was brought in as a surprise. I was brought in, and then there was this huge gown that I was supposed to wear with like a corset, and it was just like this beautiful silk gown, and my hair was all done up, and then I walked out with all my girls behind me, and like my dad had forged swords for all of the elders and the men in the church, for me to walk under. And then I, was led up to the front where my brother was there, and they read this book called like the Kiss and the Frog or something. I can't remember, but it was like read over the entire congregation. And the whole premise of the book was this princess who saved her kiss for her prince. And so they read the book, and then in front of everyone, they asked me to promise that I wouldn't kiss until my wedding day.
Oh, wow.
And they gave me a purity ring, and I was married to Jesus, and my dad was my keeper until my dad gave me away. And the goal, was that I was kind of like this poster child for purity. Yeah, I mean, at the time I was like, absolutely yes, like, I of course I'm gonna do this. Anyway, that was when I was 13, and then when I was 16, I went to school, got a boyfriend. Secret. But anyways, once I got found out, I wasn't allowed to like babysit anyone's kids anymore. I was like a black stain on the family. My dad like wouldn't look at me, and I had to confess where I kissed this boy, like to all the elder men, like details of what happened. And anyway, like I can't remember. My mom called them soul ties. We had to do a ceremony where I broke soul ties with this boy. I mean, all I did was kiss him, but
Yeah.
anyways, at the time, it was just a huge deal.
Wow.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it was born out of this idea of protection and love. And I get it.
Yeah.
I see that in so many, I see that in my own story, although I was just a little bit older than the Josh Harris. So I skated past that. My younger siblings, I'm the oldest of seven. My younger
Oh,
siblings.
okay. Let me share that in common. Yeah.
Yeah. And homeschooled. So also a lot of the responsibility pieces. And I've spent some time just wondering, like, I love that you see all of this love and this goodness out of it, because those good intentions are so important to what our parents, why they chose to do what they did. And yet at the same time, we grow up and we're like, wait, what was going on here?
Right.
And you hit 16 and you realize you've been drawn into a vow that you didn't really understand what was going to happen when your heart sort of opened up for the
Right.
and and also, let's be honest, our bodies are like, hey,
Yeah. I exist. Yeah.
there's this thing I have.
Yeah.
How did you hit 16 and this happens to you? How do you find yourself rethinking about the whole purity ball, and then also handling this sort of very public discipline?
Yeah. I mean, I thought I was going to hell. I really thought that I messed up my whole life, and that I remember my mom explaining to me like that your heart is like a rose, and that people that date in the world give a petal of their rose to each person that they have a soul tie with. And then by the time you get to your husband, all you have is a stem to give them.
Hmm.
And so I thought that I had given my precious rose, like a stem or a petal of that, away, that I would never get back. And so much shame. And also like I had like zero idea what was happening with my body at that time. Like I didn't understand. I didn't even, I mean, I don't know what I can share on this podcast. Okay, yeah. I mean, like I was never taught about like masturbation or uh like anything about my body. It was just like I was scared of my body, honestly. And I knew that men masturbated. I didn't know anything about like female desire or pleasure, or just, I mean, even how to protect my own self, like my own boundaries. Because I thought my dad was gonna protect me from anything. And when I went on my own, yeah, I just was so scared. So when I shared those things with my family, like my phone got taken away and well, first of all, I got caught because of MySpace. Do you remember MySpace?
Okay.
My
Yep.
brother found my profile and like ratted me out about my boyfriend. So anyways, I had to like read all those texts, all of my text messages out loud, and it was humiliating. But I was very remorseful. And then I went on a mission trip to Thailand when I was 16, I think, after that, and I like devoted my life again to ministry and to being like a missionary. And yeah, then I found the guy again. I don't know. Yeah. Brian Harrison, what? Hey out. Hey, 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 oh.
Tied it back up again and then was like,
I-
uh, and then you also became like, so your brother was like the youth pastor. At what age does he become youth pastor? And then you were leading music, right?
Yeah, I started my own worship band when I was, I think, 15 or so. And I had my own, yeah, like rock band, and we were like touring around New Mexico, playing at different churches. And yeah, I wrote my first song with my friend Christian, she's still my best friend. She was the drummer. So yeah, music was like, yeah, always a part of my life. I think I always knew that I would still be doing it forever. So, um, yeah, but my brother was a youth pastor. I mean, we were all just like in ministry. Like, but my entire goal in life was to marry a pastor and for me to be the worship leader and for us to have musical children. A house with my parents nearby and all my siblings and all of their, yeah, just that was the dream. That's what I, was told I wanted, and that's what I thought I wanted. And part of that I still want. So the community aspect of it.
Absolutely. At what stage did you realize that you needed to, because you went to Seattle for another kind of community and some formation, right? At,
Yeah.
at what age did you do that? And had you already earned your GED at that point and said, I'm going to go do this? Tell us.
Yeah, basically I went to Thailand, and then when I forgot to say this, but with the boy that I snuck off like 2 times with, um, parents disenrolled me from high school at that point, and they took my phone away, and I was not allowed to speak with him or any of the friends that I had. So I got like super behind in school because I was trying to do it from home. And um it was also a charter school that was like
Mhm.
all on computers. I don't know. My
Yeah.
parents, they just didn't want us to go to public school basically, so it was anything separate from that. But I got so behind because of all of that mess that it was like almost impossible for me to have graduated on time, and I've never been especially studious anyways. So I went to Thailand for a month or so. I can't remember how long that was for. But then I went to Mexico for a mission trip. And anyways, I completely destroyed my education, and I just got my GED at that point. I think I was 16. Yeah. And then I started working at Starbucks, continuing music. And that's when I was kind of like ready to go to Bible college,
Mhm.
Master's Commission in Seattle. So it just seemed like I needed to get out of there.
Why was faith so important to you at that stage of your life? Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there.
I think it was my expression. I was really good at being a worship leader, and I feel like it gave me such purpose. I loved, like at the time, I was really into Bethel and like Hillsong and all of those really charismatic churches and their worship teams. It was just a very free space to explore like jamming
Yeah.
and just playing music for hours and hours and hours, and feeling like you're a part of something really important. So I think I loved that, and I was good at it, and like it just gave me such purpose. So the Holy Spirit, that was my favorite part of church, was the music. Like I never liked reading the Bible really, or sermons, or memorizing scripture. Like all of that was exhausting, and because I was the worship leader, I didn't have to do any of that. I would just go to church, do my thing. Everyone loved it. And then I would go eat a snack in the sound room, during the sermon, and like text my friends. So I don't know. Like I was a teenager, but my faith definitely bolstered when I went to Thailand and when I was a missionary. Like I had incredible experiences. I saw crazy things. Like we stayed in a colony of people with like leprosy, and like saw healing, and like prayed for rain, and it rained, and I praying in tongues and all of that, like you feel like really alive and you feel like so connected to something bigger than you. And all of that felt so real to me. So yeah, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't have imagined at that time, like not being in that environment forever. It just
Yeah.
felt like the only thing. And also when you're in that environment, you feel like you know things that no one else knows. And I felt like I had this like a secret to life, and I wanted to share it. So yeah.
That tracks. It's so interesting because, yeah, you feel like you have the opportunity to illuminate someone else. And there's a sense of, yeah, an incredible sense of life purpose that could be like, I transformed a person's life with sharing this, experience. Were you allowed to listen to any secular music, or
No,
did your parents
no,
keep
no.
it? No. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes like Bob Dylan or Tom Petty, like some of the folkier artists, Bob Dylan or Johnny Cash, but mostly because Johnny Cash turned Christian. So,
Right.
um, Rebecca St. James, but Jennifer Knapp was a no-no because she became a lesbian. So no to that. I don't know. Just no. I was strictly like, it was Christian stuff, pretty much.
All the way through. So you moved up to Seattle to go to Bible college. Tell me more about that.
Well, this Bible college is called Master's Commission, and it's like a 1-year discipleship program where you dedicate your life to the ministry and to a church and to a family that you live with, and pretty much get like no choice on like, any of that. And the part that was exciting to me was they created like a play, or they wrote a play
Hmm.
like and toured with it like a couple months of the year. And so you got to travel, and that was really intriguing to me, and meet new people. And I have no problem meeting new people. I love meeting new people. So it sounded like a fun adventure to me. And they actually toured through my church from Seattle, and they stayed like in our community and like served our family and showed us their play, and like it was really exciting. So anyways, I was like, I want to do that. So yeah. And I also applied for another thing like in another country. I won't say where, but I was really, really excited about that, and I didn't get in to that one. So this is the one that I got into, and I was excited to go. So yeah, I raised money. My whole church paid for me to go, and I went.
Moved in with a family, and you told me a little bit more about the experience there, and then that's also where you met your partner. And is that John?
Jake,
Jake, I'm sorry. I had it up here earlier and I got it backwards.
we're actually divorced now, but
I was gonna let you talk about that a little bit. I'm trying to let the story unfold as it seems best to fit. But when we enter into marriage, coming out of that sort of evangelical, you're expected to be with one person for the rest of your life. And also, I think there's kind of an expectation about early marriage, and there's so much pressure that goes with fulfilling this higher order expectation that comes down from from good ideals potentially, but it sort of transforms into something. I have a working theory on this, but I could be wrong. So, talk to me about like what it was like to be in that church, and then also like meeting Jake, now your ex-husband, and how the influence of faith affected your relationships, and then also just like next steps, like in terms of like forming a band and finding, because I want to ask you about like how you found your way out too, but just
yeah.
following with the chronology, I suppose.
I mean, I was the most of the people that went to that Bible college, like they grew up in the church that it, was formed out of. So they all knew each other already. I was kind of like the random kid from desert that no one knew. Um, yeah, Jake definitely stood out right away. He's a very kind person, and um yeah. We just were friends kind of immediately. But I never like thought that I never like thought of him romantically initially. I'll say this. So I went to the program for a year, but you're not even like allowed to talk to the opposite sex or like be in the same vehicle alone. It's like not on your mind. And it's like an immediate no. So I honestly wasn't like thinking of that. I was just so excited to be in a new place. And yeah, Jake was a friend for sure. Like a healthy church friend, and like you side hug, like you don't like
Yeah,
hug
she's sidearm.
like brotherly. Then so I decided to stay a second year and work at that school, and I'm trying to think of all of this. It's like so wild to think about. I haven't like reflected honestly in a while, but then I just remember Jake, he called my dad and he called my mom to see if he could take me out on a coffee date, like at the end of that 2 years. So he was like a friend for 2 years, but just an acquaintance. And then I just remember my dad calling me and being like, "Hey, if a dude with like a big smile asks you out to coffee, like you can go." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And Jake has the most enormous smile, like can't miss it. So I was like, I bet it's Jake. And so we ended up going to coffee and we were friends. Like, yeah, obviously, really naturally friends. And then my dad unexpectedly went into the hospital and ended up yeah, dying like a week later. So I flew home like immediately. He was already in a coma by the time I got there and he didn't really wake up ever. And so by that point, Jake and I had gone on like two friend dates, coffee dates or whatever. And I moved to New Mexico right after that. So like we barely knew each other. But he was, a really good person and a good friend. So he would call like every day and check in and pray for me. Then my dad's funeral came up, and I remember him asking my mom if he could come. And yeah, I don't have to go into all of this, but it was, yeah, just a classic. I think men are in the church are taught that they need to like rescue
Yeah.
women, protect them. And so it makes sense, honestly, how we happened. I was, desperate for safety and like a comfort and someone to help me through this grief process. And anyway, he flew down. We were like long distance relationship for 7 months, I think. We didn't kiss for 7 months until he asked his parent. I don't even know if he asked his parents, whatever. And then we got engaged. It was like 9 months maybe, and then we were married like a year, like within
Wow.
we waited till our wedding night to have sex, and like we did everything right. And yeah, I mean, Jake and I are still friends. Our divorce was really so hard, but very amicable. Yeah, very like respectful. Like we have respect for each other, and yeah, we just want different things now, so it's okay.
So, yeah, that's a good place to talk about where things start to change for you internally. You've done all of the right things. And I'm guessing at this point in time, you're not thinking about the level of control that this whole ecosystem has exerted on you that has led you through these yeses at prom balls to yeses
Yeah.
to relationships. But something shifts, right?
Yeah, I think I mean, there's been little clues along the way for me. Like my best friend, she came out when we were teenagers and was like kicked off the worship team. And like there's moments like that where I look back where I'm like, that didn't feel right to me. And I remember like the first time I was like allowed to vote, I like didn't vote for who my parents wanted me to vote for. And they're just like moments like that where I feel like I kind of have this, I have my own voice inside of me that I'm starting to kind of listen to. And Jake and I were married for 12 years. So we started our band like I think it was 6 years in, and we started writing our own music. I wanted to like kind of move to the city and writing our own music about leaving the church. Yeah, I can't, we were still very much in the church for like the first few years, maybe 4 years of our marriage. And I think it honestly was like the sexuality part of it for me. Like I had a lot of friends that have, started coming out, and the fact that they weren't like accepted in my traditional upbringing, like just helped me start asking more questions.
Mhm.
So I think that kind of was the beginning. And then with Jake too, like his family left the church, and so we were the only ones still going. And I held on for a really long time because I wanted to be a worship leader forever. But then I realized when I started playing my own music and writing my own music that I could still impact people and that I could still connect with people just in a different environment. And it was still, bringing a lot of life to me. And I felt like I was still imparting something from myself that was really positive. And I didn't think that was possible outside of a church. So
When did you start listening to music that was not officially Christian and allowed?
that's a good question. I remember, yeah, I think it was probably 4 years into us being married, but somebody was like, "Do you know who Nirvana is?" And I didn't know. I had no idea. I never heard of them. And I was like living in Seattle, which is where everything started, and all these bands. I met our producer. I think it was probably when we met our producer, Nate Yachino, and we started recording our second record. And opened my mind to like all these bands. And I remember him showing me like I don't know, yeah, just all the bands that I'm obsessed with now that I had no idea existed. So that's been a really fun thing to have my eyes opened like at such a later age than most people. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't know about any of that until I started dating my husband, and he made mixtapes for me, and I was like, mind
Uh,
blown. And I had already, my rebellion was listening to secular music. It made my parents chew their arms off a little bit for a minute, but they ended up getting over it much faster than I think I expected in the long run. But it's funny when you're like in your 20s and you're like, now I've never heard of this band.
yeah. Yeah, it's a little embarrassing sometimes. POD, they're kind of Christian, kind of secular.
Yeah. So you start to, I'm guessing, see a model of other types of music that you can play and other things that could unlock your creativity.
Yeah. I mean, now it's like my whole life is like, I mean, I've been touring a good amount and getting to share like these songs that meant so much to me. I mean, I still approach music in the same way that I did when I was a kid, like emotions first, like finding a note on the piano that helps me feel. And I mean, that still happens like every day. And so getting to share those songs in rooms of like lots of different type of people with every belief, difference, I feel even more integrated and like more embodied, like than I ever have, honestly. So I just didn't even think it was possible. But music is literally magic, connects us to people that you never thought you would be connected to.
The integration thing. When did you realize things were not whole and not integrated? I'm sure the aha moments are actually a little more small moments than they are one big moment.
Yeah, well, I can think of one, but it was one of my first concerts in Seattle ever. And my new friends came. I had just met them, and they were like kind of recovering churchgoers similar to me. And they had their dog die, like their actual baby child, like it was like their baby. And it died like the day before. And I was like totally not expecting them to come to the show. And they came anyway. And from the stage, I remember being like, my automatic response was like, oh, you'll see George again. And then on the stage, I stopped myself and I was like, actually, no, maybe he's just dead. And they were like they went from like kind of their faces being like just bummed to like smiles. They were like, that's right. Like maybe there's not a bow that we wrap every single thing up with and it has to have this perfect ending. Like maybe there's an ending to everything. I don't know. I mean, I was still exploring my belief system at that time, but I just remember on stage, like seeing them feel more seen by me not having an uptick on everything or like a Bible verse to give them to make them feel better. It was just like, no, that's shitty. Sorry, your
Yeah.
dog died. And that made them feel more seen instead of like, you're going to learn something from this. Like, this is God teaching you. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was. Who knows? But at the moment, that's what I thought.
I'm a little sick of doubting. I'm barking at nothing. I can feel it in my breath.
I think that's the thing that I keep going back to is like this idea that one of your lyrics you have, it's what would happen if you put down the weight of the world. And I feel like growing up in a highly religious system, and listen, I'm still a person of faith, but when you're in that system, you can take yourself so seriously and you can take every aspect of every single thing you do so seriously. And then you do have to either have the uptick, you have to have the happy ending or the lesson that comes out of it. But I was thinking about the fact that it actually creates such a heavy oppression on us. And I was wondering, when you wrote that lyric, was that just something out of like a life experience or like one life experience, or how does that resonate with your experience of growing up in a faith community?
Jake wrote that lyric.
Okay.
Yeah, Jake's incredible. Yeah, he I don't know what he would say to that, but I think he was definitely someone that encouraged me often to just be honest with how I felt and be brave to feel the pain of loss instead of just fill it with like something immediately hopeful to make me feel better in the moment. I think so much of grief, like especially after my dad died and all of that, just accepting that something sucks and that I might not ever understand why it happened, but at the same time just like feeling gratitude for the things that have gotten me to where I am right now and who I am today. Like I'm glad that my dad was alive and that I got this many years. I don't know, I kind of forgot the question, but yeah, putting the weight of the world down is really hard. I actually don't know the answer.
Well, truth be told, it's always that way. I was just thinking about how we can take ourselves a little too seriously in certain worldviews, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think now that more than ever, I'm like really open to learning about how other people find peace because it seems like everything is trying to take it from me or us, like, or just kind of vying for our attention. And I don't know. I'm open to learning anyone else's how it's been working for them.
What is your understanding of the world and of, I don't want to prescribe because I actually don't know. Like if you consider yourself a spiritual person, if you consider yourself pretty agnostic or atheistic at this point, where do you stand on that right now? And then I'm going to go back to the peace question.
Yeah.
After that, I'm orienting myself.
Yeah. Good job. You're great at this, by the way. Thank you. I I don't know, but I think, like I can see that I've pendulum swung in my life and understandably so, like just trying to search. And I think what I've learned that is working for me right now is just the power of sifting through things instead of throwing it all out, like calling it all bad. I feel like I can look at my childhood and see that people were motivated by love and like my parents were motivated by love, even though I wish things were different. But that's, I think I do believe coming back around the, like at one point I would have said, I don't know if there's a God. And I think that was a pendulum swing. And now I think most of the trueness for me is kind of in the middle and that's muddy and like harder to sift through, but it's just my work right now. I think for sure I feel connected to something bigger than me and I'm also not sure that it's not a part of me. I think that like I'm made in God's image and like awesome and that I have things to say and like I have, things to give and I think that that comes from being connected to something. I just don't, yeah, no, I wouldn't call it like Jesus per se. I think there's like a lot more in common with religions than not. And it would be wild of me to like say that there's only one thing that can work for every single person. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holding it with really open hands has been such a grace for me. I think that I had to get to a place where there was less clenching of what I think is right and an understanding of so much of being part of a religious system is it's more of a tool than it is like to go back to the peace thing, to finding that way to acquire a spirit of peace and to bring that to the world around me. And you said you're looking for anybody who has that sense of like how everybody's trying to be your thief of peace right now. Where can you find that? So I was going to ask you just about what does the way forward look like for you and what are some of the things that are keeping you creative and grounded? And you talked a little bit about I love the sifting thing, but is there anything else that is contributing to your sense of being more integrated and more whole right now?
I think protecting it, like I just got a new apartment and I feel like I've like had this new fresh start and like I worked really hard to get to this like independence that I have right now. And it's kind of like up to me to protect it. And so I'm trying to build my morning routine. Like it's so silly, but like one of the things that I try to do every day is just play music, which I know that seems like it wouldn't be hard, but it is because I'm busy. But I mean, just like for 30 minutes a day, like that is kind of my non-negotiable. And like I don't have multiple, like I just have like one. And it's just I want to play music every day, not for anyone, like, but just, for because it's like a part of me. And I think that's a lot of the way that I express myself. And it's different for every person. Like some people love to write. Like I don't really love writing. Like I feel like confined by my pen and, like I can't write fast enough or something. But when I'm playing an instrument, like I just feel like more free. So that's one thing. I think for me, and I wouldn't say this for anyone else, but like I'm trying, I don't really drink like alcohol during the weeks. I like enjoy it on the weekends, trying to associate that with like connecting with people, as opposed to just using it as a way to like numb, what actually needs to be expressed or felt.
Yeah.
I think feeling is like brave. And a lot of us like, probably because of trauma, use these things to not feel. And I get it. I've done it. And I don't know. I've just been trying those two things and taking my dog on a walk and going running.
Wonderful. And how is the world around you? Your mom, you said you have still a strong and good relationship with Jake.
Yeah.
Maybe Jake's family. How is the world around you, coming around you, and like walking alongside you through this change where you have a whole new way of looking at the world, and then also making major life changes that are granting you this opportunity to chase some things that you need to go after?
Yeah, I feel so supported by my community and especially my band. And yeah, Jake has been awesome. His family, uh, yeah, understandably has been frustrated. It's all right. I don't know what that will look like in the future. I have a lot of hope for that. Yeah, Jake and I worked really hard to respect each other through this process. And so I'm super grateful for that. But our relationship obviously looks different.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're not each other's main support anymore. And I think I'm kind of flailing around right now and figuring it out. And just, it's kind of just me and my dog, honestly. So I'm doing good.
Did I give you that look? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good. I've like never been, oh, like I've never had my own apartment ever in my life.
Yeah.
I've never like lived alone. Even as a kid, like I shared my room with like strangers. I don't know. So I'm just having my own bed except my gigantic 80-pound dog. Yeah, I'm really happy. I feel like really just peaceful and creative. I'm close to where I work. I'm a photographer for like an auction company, so I'm like I feel grateful for my job and like I feel like stable and just really grateful. Like this last year has been so tremendously difficult. I didn't know what it would look like in the end of that whole process, and I'm just really proud of myself and of Jake and my community.
You have such a generosity of presentation. Like it has to flow from something interior. So I just want to take a moment to note that. And then thank you for being really vulnerable and like walking through some old memories and also letting me ask you about some fresh changes and talking about that.
Well, I feel like really safe with you. I mean, thank you so much. Yeah,
That's
I
good.
mean, you have a very calming presence and inviting. Thank you.
So what are you looking forward to and what's coming up with music?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to, I have a couple of solo shows coming up in Seattle and Incarnation, and I've been playing like a ton with my full band and my duo configuration. So I'm looking forward to stripping things back, and I have a couple fun shows in that way. And then I'm recording another record right now with the boys, and yeah, I feel like these songs are really precious to me. I'm excited about that. But yeah, right now I'm kind of in like I'm not in the busy season for music, so it feels good. I feel like chill.